This is Nithya Ramachandra from the NR Hour Sports Show, alongside with our co-hosts Vedant Gupta and Kia Lyons from the NR Hour Sports Show. And Vedant has his own show called Global Kid Media. And we're joined by a really special guest, James Coe. He's a sports journalist, broadcaster, four-time Emmy Award winner. Man, he does everything in the sports. He worked with the NFL Network. He's big time, and it's truly an honor for you, James, to join the show today. And like I said, we're big fans of yours, and you do great work. And first of all, how are you and your family doing today?
We're doing good, man. I appreciate you guys having me on, and wow, what an introduction, you know. But but yeah, no, I'm more than happy to kind of join you guys and talk life. Yeah.
Yeah.
So James, walk us through a little bit. You have had an incredible and are having an incredible career. You've created greatness. Walk us through how it all began.
I've been a big fan of sports, and it's really interesting. I've actually been a bigger fan of sports broadcasters, even as a young kid, so like growing up, like I remember watching Chris Berman for the first time and being like, oh my gosh, I love Chris Berman. I want to be like Chris Berman when I grow up. Guys like Chick Hearn calling games. And for those folks outside of the LA area, he's like a legendary basketball broadcaster, the guy who actually invented the term slam dunk. This is the guy that I grew up listening to, right? So yeah, no, I've actually had a love affair more for sports broadcasters, even more than the athletes, all throughout my kind of childhood and developmental years. I mean, even going back to I watched a lot of pro wrestling in the 90s.
Yeah.
And good old Jim Ross was somebody that I looked up to, gosh, I now just thinking about like Keith Jackson, watching college football. There's just been so many, inspirations in my life, but a lot of what I wanted to bring to the table was, when you look at that list, it's like these guys bring a lot of energy and a little quirkiness too, especially when we're talking about like Keith Jackson or like good old Jim Ross, like Chris Berman, it's like they're energy guys, but they're also had just a little quirkiness to them too, so that's kind of sort of, I guess, my mentality and my philosophy when I kind of approach this whole thing. And when I first got started, I honestly, growing up as an immigrant kid, like I didn't see too many faces like myself on TV, and I sure as hell didn't know nobody in this space. So I really had to kind of sort of carve this out on my own.
But you knew you wanted to, which is very, very cool.
Yeah, listen, when I first got out of school, I had a sales job. Like I had a regular 9-to-5 job for about 2+ years, and I was living in the Bay Area. I was making good money. But I don't know, like I just didn't feel fulfilled. So I started moonlighting on the side. I had done some sports broadcasting in college, not a ton, but a little bit. And I just wanted to kind of see if I could figure it out. And so I started moonlighting on the side at a sports talk radio station there in San Francisco. And my mentor there, the guy that I was kind of working for, he just really encouraged me to kind of put a tape together and send it out, see what happens, and that's what I did, with his guidance. He kind of helped me. Larry Kruger up there, shout out to him, but, helped me kind of sort of put my tape together. And when we sent it out, I didn't get too many responses, to be honest with you. But I did get a little ping back from a group in Montana. And then, I just packed up my Honda Accord with whatever I could fill, in terms of clothes and belongings. And I just trekked it from San Francisco to middle of nowhere, Montana. And
wow.
Then just kind of sort of got my career started. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Sure. Yeah, I want to go back to when you were a kid a little bit. Did you ever want to be the athlete at any point, or was it always just I'm gonna go into broadcasting, that's it? And if so, did you play sports?
Brother, I'm like 5'8.5" and no athleticism. Like I loved playing football. I wasn't any good at it. I loved playing basketball. But dude, at 5'8.5", man, with limited jumps, like Like, no, I knew I wasn't going to be playing no sports, man. Like, but I loved calling the games. Even with like, just my buddies, we would mess around and, just like, I'd mess around and call plays and stuff. And it was fun. We just had fun with it. But yeah, no, I had zero aspirations to be a professional athlete. And when I pursued broadcasting, it was just more of like I'm more suited to do this than to actually play, on the field or between the lines.
Interesting.
Yes, your voice and your energy, that's for sure. You are definitely following your calling.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. So yeah, no, listen, I mean, I started off in radio, I was doing, I was like a part-time country music DJ. And then I was hustling and like calling like high school basketball games on the side, high school football games on the side. So like, that's kind of sort of how I got my start, in the broadcasting game. And that was many moons ago, before I guess I just kind of figured out like, okay, well, making 17 grand a year is not for me. And I need to figure out a way to hustle and make more money. And the way I kind of figured to do that was to get onto the TV side. So I went to graduate school to kind of figure that part of my life out. And then I slowly but surely transitioned to the TV.
Awesome.
So I want to ask you about your college career. Obviously, you went to University of California, and you were a long-suffering California fan. So, but before we get to that, I want to ask you about your what was the process like for you to get into broadcasting, and did you get to call games at your own college while working on your project, during the process?
Yeah, so most college schools that have some kind of athletic sports, and I think all colleges have some level of sports. Luckily, Cal has a pretty prominent football and basketball team. But yeah, all colleges have sports or some kind of sports broadcasting element, whether it's small, big, whatever. But every school has that opportunity. It's just a matter of kind of plugging away and putting your time in, because it's very seniority driven. It's not merit based, right? So like, even if I was significantly better than the senior ahead of me, it's like, well, he'd been waiting, right? He'd been waiting 3 years or whatever to call games. So that's just how it works, And I didn't really have the opportunity to call too many games at Cal, honestly, just because it was just it's a crowded room. It was, very much like I said, like, if you put the time in, then you got to call games, So I only got to call a handful of games there at school. But I honestly had the best time, and you learn a lot about yourself and man, for any of the young broadcasters out there, or anyone really, just trying to figure things out, like, it's just like, I always tell people, I'm not a talented guy. But I worked really hard on my craft.
Right.
And my journey and my process and the way that I do things, like, I think anyone can do it, honestly. I mean, there's a couple things that set me apart, but I promise you, none of it is talent related, I just worked really, really hard, and did a lot of self-tape study, and did a lot of just like tape evaluation and writing notes down. I write notes down today. Like, I write notes down all the time. And just in terms of like things I want to improve. And then that's kind of sort of how I kind of slowly but surely got better. And then, and was able to kind of meet the right people at the right time in my life, and was given opportunities.
Like I said, you're one of the best out there now. So.
And you did win 4 Emmys for it. So tell us.
I did.
Tell us about that, but also tell us about when you had your first experience of a professional platform. How did it feel having a mic, having that platform?
Well, my first, I guess, professional one, was like in Montana, calling, high school games or whatever. And it wasn't like anything, I don't know. It was just kind of like I had been to Cal, like I had seen big crowds and stuff. So like, when I first got that experience, it really wasn't anything other than just nerves, like you don't want to suck.
Yeah.
Right? Like I carry that with me all the time. Like, just don't suck, you know? Like, just if you're gonna be bad, at least just be average, you know? But
Yeah.
don't be terrible.
Just don't suck. That's funny.
Yeah, don't suck, man. Like, that's literally a mantra that like I tell myself all the time, you know, just don't suck, man. But yeah, no, and so I don't know. I guess I kind of sort of got into the platform that I'm at very kind of slowly, you know, although I guess like slowly for the young kids, but like I don't know, like when I was coming up though, this is actually a pretty fast trajectory, you know, for when I was growing up. Like there weren't really like these like it's crazy to me, man. Like there weren't any 26-year-olds on TV back in the day, you know? Like people forget about that. Like now it's just like, oh yeah, you're 25 and you're on ESPN. It's like, all right, cool. Like that just didn't happen.
Right.
You know, back in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s. Like it just didn't happen, you know? So like for me to kind of come up as quick as I did, I thought it was pretty quick. But yeah, like it happens kind of over the years. So then like, you know, when you're kind of sort of like, you know, when you go from like Bakersfield to San Diego to LA and then to NFL Network, it just, I don't know, it happens at a pace that you're kind of sort of used to. And so like, I never really felt like the spotlight was too big. I mean, maybe the first show that you do in every new location, you're kind of like, again, it's just like, hey, don't suck. But after a week, man, it's like, you know, you try to treat it like anything else.
Nice.
Yeah, I think I'm 14 right now, and one of my goals is to show that kids younger and younger can get to that national stage, and I think it's possible. Like you said, that's the trend. It's coming down and down and down in age. I'll get to that in a minute, but I want to know, outside of maybe media, did you have any other passions that you wanted to pursue or still want to pursue? Never too late.
It's never too late. I actually really want to write a TV show. So it's really not too late. And hopefully I'll get to that at some point in my life. I don't know. But yeah, no, I think like this is, what I am currently doing is my passion. And I've never really wanted to do anything else, you know? And so I kind of feel like I'm where I need to be. And that honestly is a great feeling. You know, kind of sort of trying to figure it out. And like, for me, it's like I said, like when I first got out of school, I was making really good money working in like a regular 9 to 5 in the San Francisco Bay Area. And I was living there with friends. I'm going out, I'm having a great time. But honestly, I don't know, just something just didn't feel right. I guess something just didn't sit right with me, right? You know, and like I just wanted to see what that was. Like there was something inside that I really wanted to get at. And I don't know, I just want to kind of sort of like figure out how to let that out, you know? And I still feel like I'm trying to let that out. And I kind of carry that with me, you know, each and every day.
So I want to ask you, obviously you work for Yahoo Fantasy and NFL Network, and in this industry it's really important to build networking connections. And we actually had Matt Harmon on the show last year, and then we had a lot of NFL Network guys on the show, like Steve Weich. I had James Palmer on the show, Tom Pelissero. You going down the list, we had most of it. So what's it like working with these people at NFL Network, Yahoo Fantasy, building those connections, talking the game of football, and not only football but life and journeys like that?
Well, when you say networking and stuff, like I don't know, and then you like talk about like, you know, some of my colleagues that I've worked alongside, like I don't. It's interesting. I guess it is networking. I just don't view it that way. You know, it's just kind of like, especially Matt. Like Matt and I are business partners, but we're friends. You know, and like I was just at his birthday party last week. He was at my birthday party a couple weeks ago. It's like, it just. I don't know, man. Like I don't know. Like that's just your buddies, you know. And like working with somebody who's so talented, like he is, it really is an inspiration. It really kind of inspires you, motivates you to get on your horse and work, you know. Because this guy, I think the one thing that I take away from meeting the guys at the highest level, the guys that are truly good, they just work, and they work way harder than anybody else, you know? And I don't know, like there's just you don't get complacent, and, you know, complacency is really big in this business. It's huge. like you get to a certain level and people feel like they've made it, right? And like, and that's when the growth stops. That's when your career, I guess, trajectory kind of sort of slows down, you know? I mean, obviously, look, obviously there's exceptions to this. But yeah, when you talk about like Tom Pelissero or like Steve Weish or like Matt Harmon or guys of that nature, like those dudes work extremely hard. And so nothing but respect for those guys. So yeah, no. When I think of networking, it's funny. Like I think of guys who are behind the scenes, because you know what? And this is kind of like a good like life lesson advice. Like you kind of sort of don't network with your colleagues.
Yeah.
And the reason being is your colleague probably isn't going to get you a job. I mean, sometimes they will, but you got to understand for a lot of these jobs, you're competing against your friends, you're competing against your colleagues, right? So like, I don't know, like I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's like, it's more rare. So like if you are trying to expend energy networking, which by the way, you should be doing, everyone should be doing that. It's like, you want to meet people behind the scenes, right? Like you want to meet high level producers. You want to meet decision makers. Like that's what networking is to me, is meeting decision makers and meeting people who like can impact your career. That's what networking is to me. And I feel like I've done an okay job with that, you know, but yeah, I mean, it's just like I said, like meeting agents, meeting news directors, meeting, you know, executive producers, people like that like you never see on camera, and then kind of sort of reaching out to them and seeing what's going on, talking to them about the business, and really just kind of like, yeah, just connecting on a professional level. Maybe it's not a personal level, but a professional level. Yeah. Like that's what networking is to me.
Nice. And so much can go into your job and reflection, study. What's some of the secrets that you use to maintain a personal balance, mind body balance, to break up your day, or just to manage like
like, are you
peace.
Talking about like work life, like
so
work
like your
life
your personal peace, having a social life? Just how do you maintain that balance?
It's really hard. I mean, honestly, anyone who pursues this profession, I think anyone who pursues a passion, it is extremely difficult to maintain some kind of like personal professional balance, because your professional becomes your personal, your professional becomes your life.
Yeah.
And to like, you have to really be mindful of like carving out that time. I've got 2 kids, I'm married, and it is a daily challenge to close my computer, put everything away, and hang out with them, you know? So yeah, it's, by the way, like the burnout is real. Like there is a ridiculously high turnover rate in this profession. There's a lot of burnout, dude. Like guys, it's hard to be on like this all the time. It's hard to be making 25,000 for 4 years, 5 years, with limited, you know, with limited views of the top. Like it's really tough. And the grind is real. And so guys get burned out. Like, listen, man, like I've seen so many people, talented people, extremely talented people, get flamed out in this business because they don't see an end. And I think that's probably what drives people out of this business, is that they don't see an end. And they're like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this to myself? So I think it kind of sort of ties in with what you were saying, was like, okay, how do you find your personal peace? It's like, you know, you need to do that, you know, otherwise it's like, you're not long for this business, man. Like you will get burned out. I mean, like, I honestly think like, I forgot what it was, man, but there was like some kind of like, you know, poll or study or something done, man, where like 75% of people who come out of school and get into like journalism burn out, because it's a hard ass job and it takes a lot of time, a lot of dedication, and you have to sit there and care about nothing else other than your job. Like they don't let you, like, that's what's crazy. So yeah, man, like in terms of stuff that I do, I just make sure I carve out the time. And like putting your phone away is like the biggest thing. You got
Yeah.
to put away the phone, put away the iPad, put away your computer, and just set that shit aside for 2 hours a day, and talk to people. Like, stop texting people. Like, talk to people, man. Like, and I think that's a big part of
I
my
agree.
mental health kind of, upkeep is kind of sort of doing that, like talking to people in real life and like having conversations, like go get a beer.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like, I know we got a minor on here, but like, I don't know, like, go hang out at the skate park, go goddamn, go do something.
Yeah.
Like you need human interaction, man. Like that's what needs to happen, bro. So, I think human, like actual live human interaction is a very, very big part.
Definitely.
Yeah, no doubt. I think it's about, remembering the purpose of why you're doing it. And if you're in it for the long run, if you know your goals, then working towards accomplishing that, or else if you need to find something else for sure. I want to hear some of the stories, maybe outside of what we see on camera, what we see in writing. What is some of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes that are maybe some cool stories you can share?
Um, Gosh, man, like, I mean, I guess what direction do you want me to go in? Like my process, or like just in terms of like hanging out with people, or what direction would you want me to go in with that?
More so like the process of things, we talked about networking a little bit, and you find sometimes
Mm.
talking to a janitor can lead to something
Mhm.
huge. Is there any crazy stories you have like that where you're just walking around, maybe
Like a
one?
serendipitous story.
Yeah.
Well, hey, listen, man. Like that's the Adam Schefter story. Like when he was up and coming, journalist, and he knew everyone in the Broncos organization, right? Like in like literal, like he literally knew janitors, right? So like he would be asking them, like, "Hey, like, what are you hearing?" And then he would chase those things down. Like that's how Shefty became Shefty, you know. Um, and so for someone like myself, like I'm more of like on the creative process now, where he's like a hardcore breaking news journalist. Like that's, dude, that's a different beast. That's a completely different animal, from what I do, which is just more of like on the creative side, content creation side. That's kind of sort of where I kind of butter my bread, right? And so, like, when you ask me about my process, honestly, a lot of it looks like I'm wasting time. Like I sit there, like I sit there on YouTube, and I watch a lot of videos, dude. Like I watch a lot of YouTube videos. I'm talking like content creators, like I'm on Instagram, like I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not a TikTok guy, but like, like I've seen like TikTok videos across my feed. And I read a lot, I read a lot on Twitter. I read a lot on, ESPN.com or whatever. Like, I just try to be like on top of trends, and I try to be like, knowledgeable about what's going on. And like Twitter is a completely like double-edged sword. Like you can waste your entire freaking day on Twitter, which is bad. So there are times when like literally like I've been on Twitter for like an hour and I'm like, whoa, like that was a complete waste of time. I need to close this app.
Yeah.
And then, but again, like a lot of what I do, it does seem kind of sort of like wasting time. Like I watch a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of Instagram, a lot of Twitter, just to kind of sort of like, I don't know, like kind of like fuel my creative soul, and like
Right.
see what other people are doing. And like, not in like this weird, like Carlos Mencia, like I'm going to like rip you off kind of way, but just kind of like, let's just see what's going on out there, like let's see
Right.
what people are talking about. Let's see what people are doing. Let's see like what is the style that people are editing their videos. Like I
Oh
really
yeah.
chop it up like from a technical perspective. Like what are the camera angles? What are the
Exactly.
edit, techniques? What's the storytelling techniques? What are the emotions going into it? Like what's all the stuff that is going into these things, and like how do I apply that to myself? Like how can I apply
Right.
myself to this craft? And like so then I start picturing myself doing the skits that I'm watching. Like how would I approach it? Like how would I film it? How would I edit it? And that whole process is kind of what I bring into the table. It's really funny. Like if you were to ask my producers, these skits and sketches that I do, these segments that I do, the segments that I come up with, like so much of it, like of course it's a collaborative effort, but so much of it is me just laying out frame by frame, shot by shot of what I want to see, and then letting my team, kind of sort of let that image come to life. And if I don't like it, I'll let them know, like, no, this is not, this isn't what I wanted. Not in an asshole way, but like, being very nice and respectful, just being like, hey, listen, that's not what I pictured. That's not my vision of this process. And it's actually quite encouraging when I listen to a lot of artists who have made it talk about how much of a control freak they are, like how much of the production that they handle. And that just needs to happen. Like, I don't need to know the total nitty gritty behind, like, okay, like, oh wow, how did you do that edit? But like, if it's not the right look, like, you're the CEO of your brand and you are a brand, right? So like, you need to control that. And if it's not totally right, like, you got to go back to the drawing board. So in terms of my process, man, like, that's a lot of it. A lot of it is, again, just consuming media and then picturing myself in that space. And then kind of sort of like figuring out a way to execute. And like having a basic knowledge of editing, having a basic knowledge of how cameras work, how shots are developed, like how to get a particular angle or framing that you want. And having reference points too, like, oh, hey, do you remember in that Scorsese film, he did this shot? Like, that's what I'm going for. And like, when you can communicate properly your vision, it goes a lot easier and a lot faster.
Exactly.
So, I want to ask you about the Asian American community, because it's growing big time. And we had Mike Yam on the show, and we also had Carrie Chow. And for you, what do you like the growth about it? And obviously Howard Chen is there from ESPN, and you got the kicker from the Falcons. I forgot his name, but what do you like?
Younghoe Koo, baby.
Yeah, there you go. But what do you like the growth of the Asian community in sports now, and hopefully we can get more people in there involved?
Yeah, growing up, like I said, I'm an immigrant kid. I'm a son of immigrants, and we didn't see a lot of folks like us on TV, right? Like, when I was growing up, and I'm an 80s kid, like, it was Michael Kim, and that was it. I grew up, I lived in LA since I was 10 years old. And in LA, it was like, we had Rob Fukuzaki and Michael Kim, and that was it. And there wasn't nobody else, man. So it's, I say that knowing that there's probably some young kid, some 14-year-old kid out there who might see a face like theirs on TV and be like, yeah, man, like, that's cool. Like, representation matters and all that. And it's so painfully obvious that it matters, because my God, like, I got a 7-year-old daughter, and like, man, she's like obsessed with like, the female athletes at the Olympics. She's like obsessed with like, female world leaders, right? Like, she wants to know about Angela Merkel, right? She wants to know about like Kamala Harris, like, it's so obvious that representation matters, that if you see a face like yours, or, somebody like yourself in a big stage, like, that shit matters, man. Like, it inspires people. It inspires a whole generation of people that you'll never see or meet. And I'm very cognizant of that. I'm very aware of that. And so, yeah, man, like, just trying to have a good image and everything like that, I think is very important, and just trying to do the best job that I can. Obviously it's 99% for myself. Like, I want to do a good job, but again, that 1% of like the other stuff, like, I do want people who watch my stuff to be like, yo, I like this guy, man. Like, he's doing some things, and I want to do, or he inspires me to do stuff like that as well. So, those guys you mentioned, man, like, those guys are champions, honestly. Carrie Chow, Howard Chen, like, these guys are the guys that are like leading the fight. I'm just a random foot soldier that knows them and is more than happy to carry their banner that they created. But like, that's, tip of the cap to those guys, you know, because they really do the yeoman's work, honestly.
Well, we like this guy. He's doing some great things. So I think your creative,
Thank you.
your creative outlook is awesome. I think it's really important too, the social media aspect. We've come so far in the past 20 years, and it really does affect sports, entertainment, everything.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us, and I also agree that it's important to surround ourselves with lions, with others that have that same level of standard of high performance, which you're explaining with your creativity and your vision. It's key. So tell us about one of the best experiences you've had in creating a piece.
Well, one of my, you know, more notable pieces that I do nowadays is this whole like Jim Cramer kind of like, I call him Jim Comer, and it's just about fantasy football and like, you know, player stocks and stuff, and like we just have fun with it, right? And it's an idea that had been percolating in my mind for a couple of years, but like I just couldn't. We could never execute it because the places that I went wouldn't want to like invest the resources in it. I'm so blessed, man, to be working at DirecTV, working for the Red Zone channel, and doing those things, because like honestly, my boss there is just like, he gives me free reign, you know. And like when that first Comer thing popped and like everyone was like, oh my God, this works. It empowered my bosses to empower me, and just they basically were just like, yeah, man, just can you keep doing this? Can you like keep coming up with stuff? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
And yeah, so no, it's to get the full green light and for somebody to fully entrust you to something is, I just can't tell you how liberating that is, you know? And like, I get it, man. Like, I'm not sitting here telling you like I've got the biggest reach or like I've, get the most, social media interactions or whatever. Like, that's not me. But I will tell you this, I'm extremely proud of the product that I've put on tape throughout my career. And what I'm doing at DirecTV, man, I am having a freaking blast. I'm having the best time of my life.
That's awesome.
And it is so much fun. And the cast and crew that I'm working with, they're so much fun, and they're real professionals. And honestly, I can honestly say this, that's not been the case anywhere else. Everywhere else, there's always been an attitude problem guy, and like, I know I'm like super nice on camera and like, talking with you guys, like I'm a nice guy. Yeah. But I tell you what, man, like when I run into like the attitude problem guy, like no, like I'm not going to put up with that,
Yeah.
And so like I create very clear boundaries with people who are problematic,
That's good.
Yeah. And so like, I try to not let their work or their attitude impact what I do, and like to do that, but to still work with them, you need to create pretty clear boundaries. And like, so that's kind of sort of like what I've had to do throughout my entire career, because I tell you what, man, I don't care what level of TV you do. It doesn't matter. You could be in the smallest market, but the egos are out of damn control. And you will always, if you work in TV, you will always work with an ego guy, which is why it is so nice and so refreshing to be working at DirecTV. And like, I don't know, it's so weird, but like there's no ego guys at my
amazing.
Current location, which is so great. And we all really enjoy each other and really enjoy each other's company. And it's been great, man. Like, I just work with professionals. And like, I know that sounds weird because like, it's like, oh, well, you're a professional broadcaster, of course you're working like, no, being a professional is an attitude. Okay. And I don't care how young or old you are, you can be a professional, because being professional is an attitude.
100.
Right.
100.
And let me tell you something. There's always going to be somebody who is working in your profession who's not a damn professional. And so it is, and you have to work with that person. That person is on your team, and like, you have to somehow figure out like how to like navigate that space. But when you've just got a whole group of all just professionals, like it's really amazing and really easy to work, and like it's not work at all, man. Like I just show up and it's just freaking fun. And that's kind of where I'm at right now, which is really, really cool.
Well, congrats on that. That's amazing.
Sure.
And I
Absolutely.
think that your time on social media, that's what I meant about the social media. I think that your process, it sounds perfect. You know what I mean? It might feel like a waste of time at some point, and that's when you know when to pause. But I really think
Yeah.
that your whole process of putting yourself in the position of what you're watching and how you would do it, it's a great exercise.
It's
For sure.
visualization, dude. It really
Absolutely.
is. And I know that sounds like this like weird like cosmic brain, like, you know,
Not to
weird
me.
like, you know, weird thing, but like honestly, you have to see yourself in a position, at least for me, I find it that you have to see yourself in that position to fully go after that position,
Yeah.
you know? So I have to like, if I ever wanted to be president of the United States, well, I can't because I'm not born here, but I'm just saying like, if I wanted to be like, you know, a senator, like I have to be able to see myself as Senator Coe, right?
Right.
And like what, and like kind of sort of like speak it into existence. And
Right.
like, I know that sounds so weird and like, you know, like people don't really believe it, but like it's true.
I do.
At least for me.
I
And
do.
so
I do.
obviously the
Envisioned
kid
before.
too. Yeah.
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 Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. You got to see yourself in that spot. And I don't know, maybe the human mind does weird things, but like if you can see yourself in that spot, I think the human mind actually fills the gaps. And there's a lot of like subconscious thinking that's going on behind the scenes that you know that you're not even aware is happening. You know, dreams are being realized behind the scenes. You know what I mean? So I know that's like for a lot of people watching this, they're gonna be like, nah, okay, that doesn't make any sense to me. But I don't know, man. Like I don't know. For me, whatever, like it makes sense. I don't know.
Manifest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
You know, you talk about professionalism and, you know, some of the things that happen behind the scenes, humility. I was in Milwaukee recently covering Game 6 of the NBA Finals, which is obviously
Oh
huge.
wow, nice.
I didn't have any access. I was just kind of walking around Deer District, 100,000 people. And I remember at night I was sitting in a hotel and talking to Stephen A. Smith for a while, who people can think whatever of his takes on TV.
That's crazy.
Off camera, we were having a big conversation about kind of the journeys and, you know, the things he did and the things I do now at 14. And, you know, one of the things we talked about was the upward trend of media, where it's going, how it's changing. Where do you see media in the next 5 to 10 years?
I honestly think media is under assault. And all this stuff about fake news and all that bullshit, like honestly, media is under a full-on assault right now. And it's stuff, it's ridiculous stuff, like where like, you know, trusted newsmakers will tell you something and people will be, oh yeah, that's not real. It's like, you know, or like, you know, it's just this whole undermining mentality right now of like, is what I am reading real? And is this person who is telling me this, do they have an agenda? And that whole mentality is killing media right now. And, you know, and again, that's why honestly, you know, and I'm one of these people, right? Like I'm one of these people who was like, you know, I've got 4 Emmys or whatever. Okay, fine. And they were all for journalism.
Mhm.
Like I was a journalist first and foremost, you know. I was a storyteller. Like I was extremely good at telling other people's stories. That is why I won the awards that I've won. I mean, beyond the Emmys, like I'm actually more proud of this Edward R. Murrow Award that I've won, you know, many moons ago for journalism. You know, telling people stories that impact their lives, impact other people's lives. And you're asking me about the future of media. Boy, let me tell you something, man. Like until we get that trust back, until people stop doing this bullshit of just like, of, you know, and it's like, man, it drives me crazy because like media people in my position add fuel to that fire. Like that's a problem, you
I
know?
agree.
And when we keep doing that, it's like you're just burning you're burning down the foundation that's holding up the whole contraption, you know? And so when that goes, it's like, you know, what is media? What's media really going to be? Just like a bunch of TikTok videos? Maybe. I don't know. Right? Because like if someone's making funny videos, you can't say, oh, fake news. Right? So, but I mean, there's this whole industry that's built on built on trust. And I think, yeah, to a large degree, we got to get that, like journalists got to get that trust back. But at the same time, it's like, you know, people in the media, people in the media got to stop attacking other media members and like questioning, you know, I don't know, man. I could spend hours on this, honestly. I get so heated about it. You know, I really do. And it just drives me crazy. But, you know, you asked me about the future. The future is, in terms of the video side, shorter is better. And I think the people who are going to be the most entertaining and the most informative, those people are going to be the people that win. Okay. I tell people this all the time, and they never believe me. Being right does not make you popular. Being right does not get you paid. And like, I hate to break it to people, I'm not doing this for free. You know, like I've got a family, I've got a mortgage, I've got kids. Like, yo, I'm not doing this shit for free. And what that means is like, I need to get paid as best as I can, and I need to win. And to win, you got to be informative and you have to be entertaining. And people forget about, and then, you know, people forget about both sides of that, you know? And so I think the people that have been the most successful in this business have been those people, have been people who give you information, but are also really entertaining doing it, you know? So like Stephen A. Smith is a great example, you know? He's a little bit less to this degree. He's a lot less to this degree now. Nothing against Stephen A., but like he was a hardcore journalist, and like he had connections, and like he knew people, and like, you know, he could give you information. Then obviously Stephen A. was able to take it to the next level because he's so damn entertaining. Love him or hate him, he's entertaining on TV, you know. And then people try to be like Stephen A. Yeah. They try to have these hot takes or whatever. But then they forget he got to where he got to because he was informative, right? So you can't just start off being this like hot take artist, right? Like it doesn't work. Like you have to have information. And even people that I see online, like, you know, like Barry McCockiner, who is like a troll account, right? He's just a troll account. Like he doesn't like do anything. But the reason he's got like this like following is because he actually does try to like give you information. Like, yeah, he hates Tom Brady, but like he's going to give you all this like anti-Tom Brady info. You know what I mean? Like there's information attached to that. And so for me, I just think that's a big component, is like it's some blend of entertainment and information. And if you can master that and find your own voice of that blend, you know, whether it's 60-40, 40-60, 70-30, whatever, but like some blend of that, like that's when you actually find success.
We were talking about it's got to be something different. If everyone does everything the same way and the same thing, can't really put yourself apart.
I think it's really easy to be unique if you're just yourself, right? So, and you know, I know that sounds like a cheap answer, but it kind of is true. Although there are things that you can do to help yourself, right? I always feel as if energy, whatever your maximum energy is, like go to like 80% of that. And that's the person that you should take on camera, right? And people are always like, well, when you're on camera, I had someone say this to me, when you're on camera, you just want to talk like you talk to your friends. I'm like, no, that's a terrible idea. That's a terrible, I'd be fired in a minute, right? Like you can't be dropping F-bombs and like, you know, doing these things, right? Like, no. What I say, my revised version of that is, okay, so obviously, you know, you want to bring energy. But the other thing is like you want to talk like you would talk to somebody that you're interviewing for a job, right? It's like a job interview. You want to use your job interview voice. Okay. Now, hopefully, your job interview voice is not too different than your normal voice, but it is different. You know, like we all know, we talk a little differently at work. Okay, than we do, you know, among the boys or among the girls, right? Like it's just a little different. And I think that's kind of sort of like the mentality that I think is probably the best in terms of like, you know, being a professional broadcaster is kind of sort of having that. And then I guess the final thing I would say too, in terms of like helping yourself find your voice. So energy, talking, you know, semi-professionally, but also like, I know this is going to sound super weird, but like kind of like talking like, or at least when you're on camera, trying to talk on like the lower half of your voice range. Not saying like, you know, I'm not saying like, you know, you got to try and be like Bruce Buffer or like, you know, whatever, but like just whatever your normal voice is, and just try to speak on the lower half of that, you know, instead of getting way up here and like trying to talk, you know, like in your high voice. Like people think like having a high voice, like, you know, transfers energy, which it does to a degree, but it's like, wow, I'm really getting nerdy about this, but I'm like getting into the weeds, but like it like you want to have the energy, but like find it in the lower half of your voice range, which and again, like I'm going way into the weeds here at this point, but by the way, these are things that like I think about, like
I totally agree.
These are things that I write down and like I work on this shit, you know. So like I don't know, man, like so I don't know how much that helps people, but it helps me.
Hey, that's awesome. That's really amazing.
I agree.
You just put a lot of knowledge out there for these young kids, and it's really amazing. But now let's
adults. There's a lot of people. Let's go with that.
Yeah.
But I want to now we do this fun little segment on the show. It's called the rapid fire segment. You ready for this?
All right. Yeah, let's do it.
All right. I'll start off here. Kawhi Leonard's laugh or Kevin Hart's laugh?
For what? For me?
Yeah, for you.
Or what? Which one do I think Kawhi's laugh is way funnier? Kawhi's laugh is the funniest thing. If that thing ever plays, I instantaneously laugh. Like it's just so outrageous. Yeah, but like if for me, like I hope I never have Kawhi's laugh. Like goddamn, that is the craziest. That's the craziest, most robotic. Like it's just so bizarre, man, and it fits him perfectly.
James, I really think you have the keys to success. You talk about letting go of the ego, holding the vision, and having fun. So tell us some ways that you would like to have fun. And stay creative.
I know. Yeah. It's like, listen, I watch a lot of sports. And I know that sounds like, okay, well, duh. But I do. Although I do like to kind of sort of like, you know, what's funny? Like, I really like watching bad action movies. Like I do. You know, I'm trying to think of one like, you know, like all those Mission Impossible movies. Like, I mean, come on, let's be real. They're all kind of sort of just like, you know, not very good, you know, but it's okay. Like, I love them.
Yeah.
But like, you know, and I really like watching. Yeah. Just like I remember watching this bad movie on Netflix. It was called Extraction. And I think it had like one of the Helms guys on there, you know, but I don't know, man. Like, I just like watching these bad action flicks. I know it's a waste of time, but I don't know. I enjoy it. And then yeah, just like, you know, drinking with friends and stuff. And like, that's kind of sort of like how I kind of sort of let loose, you know, like, you know, crack open a couple cold ones and chatting with friends. And that's kind of sort of what I do, man. And hey, listen, every now and again, if I can get a round of golf in too, I'm not mad about it.
Nice. Nothing's a waste of time if you're coming out with the results that you're getting. So you're doing it right.
Yeah. You know what's crazy, man? Like I used to love playing basketball, but then I got old and fat, and so then I had to go and play golf, and that's kind of sort of where I'm at today. But I used to love playing basketball, man. Like when I was you know, when I was a teenager, I know I sound ancient right now, but when I was a teenager, man, I played basketball probably 5 days a week. You know,
nice.
and then like my body atrophied and they were like, nah, yeah, we're not going to do this anymore. I'm like, yeah, all right, that's fine. So then I had to start playing golf.
Wow.
Golf's awesome too.
I want to put you in a little scenario. Say you're the kicker for the Atlanta Falcons and somebody steals
All
your
right.
car and your cleats. What do you want back more?
Like Young Wei, like Young Wei Koo, man. Yeah, no, give me my ride back. Like, first of
Yeah.
all, like you could just buy the cleats wherever. I'm not even talking about like the money aspect of it. And I know Koo asked for his cleats back, and I
Yeah.
get it. But maybe his cleats are like, actually, they probably are. They're like customized. But like, I think about my car and like, you know how like when you get in your car, like
Yeah.
the seat is just right. The radio stations are set just right. You know, like everything is just right in your own car. And it's like, have you ever tried like a rental car? It's like you barely know how to drive now. You know, it's like, oh my God, like the seats are all messed up. Like, how do I turn on the air conditioner? Like, yeah, it's just stuff like that. Like where like you get in your car, and again, I'm from LA, so like I live in my car, or I used to before the pandemic. But like everything, like you know where everything is. You know exactly what works and what doesn't work. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, well, I know the air conditioner doesn't work quite as well over here. You know, it's like just all you. It's like all you don't even have to think about it. You know what I mean? Like you don't think about it. You just get in your car and you just like kind of just sort of drive. You know, and like everything's super comfortable, man. But yeah, like your car gets stolen and like you know whatever. Okay, so like let's say insurance pays for a new car, whatever. It's like you still got to go through that process. That's such a pain in the butt, pain in the ass, you know. Like I don't want to go through that, man. Like let me just have my thing.
I can't drive, but I still want the car back.
Yeah.
although I guess like the counter argument to that is like, do you want a car that has been stolen back? Like, and you know that the thieves have been in your damn ride, and like you're gonna get in your car and you'll never be able to not think about somebody else in your ride. Just cruising around. Like, so I guess there's some of that too. I kind of sort of get it.
So this is the question I like to ask to former athletes, former football players. Where do you keep the Super Bowl ring? So I'm going to ask you, where do you keep all your awards?
They're all behind me, I think.
Oh, cool.
They're all right here. I got a couple up there. You know, yeah. There's a couple that I haven't. Let's see here. I have some plaque hiding somewhere. I don't know where it is. Oh, this guy right here is my Murrow Award, which I was hyping before. But yeah, they're all kind of sort of here mixed in with my random tax documents and like you know my kids' birth certificates back here somewhere too. So yeah, her immunization records are all back here, and like yeah, I don't know, man. Like I actually. You know, like you guys had asked me too, but like, no, this is actually like I work here. Like this is
Yeah, love the office.
well, this is where I work. You know, I've got pictures of my daughter here and everything. Like I've got a random ukulele hanging out right here that I kind of sort of like play a little bit when I start like trying to like, you know, literally strum up some ideas, man. So I don't know. This is where I kind of do all my stuff.
Nice. And one of the things that I like to ask, I know that it takes great sacrifice to get great reward. So how did it feel when you got your first Emmy? Or any of those 4 Emmys? How did any of those experience, if one was better than the other, how did it feel?
No, the first Emmy is always the best one, man. And it was, yeah, it just felt like, I don't know. I don't want to say a culmination because you know I had been plugging away at it for a few years, but it was nice, man. It was really nice to be. You know what it is? It's really nice to be recognized by your peers that you're doing a good job. And like I know I'm not the normal case but I don't know. It's like weird. Like I am extremely confident and proud in the stuff that I do, but at the same time I'm super insecure about things that I do. So like it's like this weird dichotomy. That's always they're always fighting, you know. And it's always like that's like an inner battle that I have. Not every day, but every now and again, you know. It's like sometimes I literally and like I know I said this before, but sometimes I really honestly believe like I'm like, man, did that suck? Did I suck? Like, oh man, maybe that did suck. I don't know. You know, like I question myself a lot. And yeah, like so to get that award, it was just so gratifying, man, because it was just kind of like, no, you don't suck. And your peers actually like what you're doing. And so, it's one thing to hear from like, I don't know, like your family member or your friends, like, oh yeah, I love your stuff. You're doing great. Like you're
Yeah.
such a, it's like, oh, you're so talented. It's like, I always like put that to the side. I have a
Mhm.
great story about that too, but like, yeah, it's like, um, but it's all about like, yeah, like when you can beat out other people that are extremely talented. Because when you're going for an Emmy, let me tell you, there are some talented MFers out there trying to get that same award. It's not like I'm just like competing against myself. Like, nah, like there's some really talented dudes, just some really talented girls and guys that I got to get by, to win that, hardware. And so to do that 4 different times, it was really, really nice. But that first one, man, especially at that point in my career where, I was still relatively new to the TV space. Like I had been in the business maybe like, 3 years,
Yeah.
like to have that confirmation of like, yeah, you're on the right track. You're doing the right thing. Like, yeah, that was so nice, man.
Hmm.
Well, 4 Emmys, you don't suck.
Yeah.
And I want to say that it's so admirable for you to share your heart and with everybody watching, because I think that when you have a high level of standard, then it's natural to be insecure at some points, because you know you have high standards, so you put them on yourself, and it can it can translate that way. But we think you're awesome, and I appreciate you sharing how you do, because I think that that's totally letting go of the ego and just saying, hey, I'm showing up, I'm doing my best, and you're winning.
Well,
So
thank you. I
congrats.
appreciate that. I appreciate that. But you know what, man? Like honestly, and I'll say this is, I'll also say this, man, like you're going to suffer career setbacks.
Yeah.
And that when those things happen, as a matter of fact, I just had a career setback like last week, dude. Like I went into like a dark place for like, 48 straight hours, and that I always allow myself that when you have a setback, I give myself I'm allowed to sulk and be a freaking baby for 48 hours. And then after that, freaking,
Let
buck
go.
up.
Yeah,
Yeah. Put your
that's great
boots back
process.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, other people are going to be different, but like, yeah, like in that like 48 hours, man, like you really think about all kinds of things, like, oh, maybe I'm not doing the right things. Maybe I'm in the wrong profession. Maybe I'm terrible. Maybe and like, again, when you get to my level, it's like, all right, maybe I've peaked, maybe have I lost that fire? Like I question myself, it's like, oh, maybe I don't have it anymore, you know? Um, I don't know, man. It's just a lot of crazy ass thoughts go through your mind when you have
Right.
professional setbacks, and they happen, you know. So yeah, I'm just saying, like for anyone watching, like just trust me, it's not like your boy over here has just had like it's been like this. Like, nah, it's not it's not like that. And it doesn't work like that. For very few people, it doesn't ever work like that, Some
Yeah.
people it is like that, They're just so damn talented or whatever. But that's not me. Like I said, I've really had to grind and work and do stuff and really work on my stuff, man. But so I've suffered some setbacks, man. Yeah, no doubt.
Authenticity for sure.
Yeah.
I have a two-part question here. What's the most
Yeah.
unique or perhaps odd story that you've ever done?
Hmm.
Let's see. I actually won an award, an Emmy for this. But I didn't realize that fish can get herpes.
What?
And yes, and so there was an outbreak of fish herpes in a lake I was covering, that was in my location, and just thousands of fish, hundreds of fish, thousands were just washing up on shore, just dead.
Oh my God.
Um, and it's different than like the human herpes virus. It's not like they're transferable, but they have the name herpes.
Yeah.
And so when you hear that from like a public official, you're like, people are obviously going to get pretty freaked out. So I did the story on it. I went out with like, went out into, and kind of like discovered all the stuff, and like was just trying to like, relay the information in a way that was more, actually it was more humorous than it was scary, to kind of sort of like get that information out there. And yeah, and I thought it turned out really well. But yeah, one of these plaques actually back here does say, Emmy Award, James Coe, fish herpes. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's an interesting one for sure, no doubt.
That's crazy.
Part two of the question: would you ever consider doing a story on a young kid entrepreneur?
Yeah.
Would I ever do a story? Like, I don't know. I'm not, I don't know if I'm in that game now, like, am I in that game? Like, I feel like I'm more of like like I said, I'm more of a content creator guy, like, and listen, uh, I pride myself on being an excellent interviewer. Like, I think I am like one of the best interviewers out there, which is, by the way, which is how you tell somebody else's story.
Yeah.
Is you have to be a great interviewer, is to be able to, is how you tell their story. And so again, I've always felt like I've been really, really good at that process, but I'm out of that game, my man. Like, I feel like I'm out of that game a little bit, dude. So I don't know. It's a great, I mean, hey, listen, if you're 14 years old, talking to Stephen A and doing those things, covering Game 6 or whatever, man, that's a great story, bro. Like, I wish I had that motivation. I wish I had that dog in me when I was 14. Golly, I was just trying to chase girls and like figuring out like, oh my gosh, I've got a high school crush for the first time. You know what I mean? Like, I was in a different space back then, boy. Let me tell you.
Vedant is one of a kind, that's for sure.
I think any kid.
Yeah. Man, you know what? It's like I said, anyone can do it, but it's like not everyone has that inner chip, like that's what makes it different. Like, yeah, anyone can do the actual physical processes, but like to want to do it and like to actually do it is a little different. So I don't know.
Yeah.
So speaking of interviews, what was your most memorable interview you've done? And now, since football is upon us, coming up soon, actually, preseason starts this week. And which player do you, fantasy purposes, which player are you most looking forward to in fantasy purpose?
Well, I think Christian McCaffrey will probably be, if he can stay healthy, and I actually have relatively good confidence that he can stay healthy. But if he can stay healthy, I think he'll be the top scoring guy in all of fantasy football. There's so many other players that I'm just so intrigued by. Like, I am absolutely 100% on board with Terry McLaurin. I think Terry McLaurin will in 2021 emerge as a potential superstar. Like, I think he's going to come out and have an awesome season, and we're going to have to start talking about Terry McLaurin like we do DeAndre Hopkins or or some of these other great wide receivers, Tyreek Hill, he's, Devontae Adams. Like, he's going to be in that conversation after the 2021 season in terms of just great NFL wide receivers. I'm just fully on board there. Yeah, I mean, there's other players obviously that I think can really emerge, like at tight end. Like, I love Adam Troutman. I think he can really be a good player. But yeah, man, like, listen, man, I could prattle on for hours and hours and hours about it. But yeah, no, in terms of like the top guys, like, give me CMC, give me Terry McLaurin, and we'll be off to the races.
How about your most memorable interview you've done?
Golly, man, I've had a few, like, I interviewed John Jones, and I thought he was a incredibly, engaging, personality. Before I did football, I was way more well known in the MMA world. Before I ever, had one day at NFL Network, it was, I had sat down, with my job in LA, sat down with all the top guys in the UFC. I talked to Anderson Silva multiple times, BJ Penn, Dana White, I've interviewed a couple of times. And I think John Jones is probably the most interesting. I think he's the most honest. I think he's the most, in an interview setting, I feel like he's actually, I know he's crazy, but like, he was the most genuine, because he really was telling you what was on his mind. And like, obviously what was going on in he had a lot of things going on in his mind. Okay. And he's battled a lot of inner demons, no doubt, but like I felt like he was pretty honest about that. um just because, and I've always said this about John, just because you recognize your inner demons doesn't mean you're fixing your inner demons, right? So, but from an interviewer standpoint, like the fact that he addresses his demons is really interesting. It's a really interesting mental exercise. I just wish he had better kind of addressed those things. And kind of I don't know, just for him and his family, because honestly, he really seemed like a really nice, genuine guy, but was battling a lot of interpersonal problems inside, mentally. So just for him, I wish he had, kind of tackled that a little bit better. And hopefully he has. I don't know. Hopefully he's addressed that. But in terms of most interesting interview, probably John Jones. I think, I sat down with him for probably 30, 40 minutes and I was engaged the entire time. And I thought he was I thought he was very intelligent, very well-spoken, and just very like self-reflective. And you know what? That's what I love. I love self-reflective dudes. Those are the kind of people that I gravitate towards, because I myself am that way.
I'm really sorry that I didn't add the UFC into the intro. That's my fault.
So when sports stopped in COVID, it was a get real moment for everybody. How did you feel? And then my second question, since that's the going situation here, is what music lifted you up in that time, or when you have your creative moments?
Yeah, sports is weird. Sports was weird last year, no crowds, and like people, I don't know. That's why I find it interesting. People just like, well, oh, who cares about the crowds? Like, no, the crowds, that's why we watch. Like the actual sports is like 50% of it. The other 50% is like just seeing like the bonkers crowd shots. Like, I don't know. And just, it's not even like seeing the crowds. It's like feeling the energy. Like that's what we feed on. And like the athletes feed on that. So it's like, you can't tell me that the crowds are so huge. And it's like ridiculous. It's like such a huge part of that thing. I remember somebody asked me like, hey, what's one thing, what's like a concert or event or any event you could go to, where would you go? I'm like, I would go to like a Michael Jackson concert in Eastern Europe in the 90s.
Wow.
Nice.
People were like literally fainting just seeing this man. I'm like, what does that energy feel like? What does 100,000 people watching and like, people fainting, like seeing this man? What does that energy feel like? Like, I don't know. Anyways, neither here nor there. I'm a big energy guy, man. Like, I'm all about that. I'm all about the spirits and all that stuff. Like I got to feel that. But anyways, but like in terms of like music that gets me through, man, like I'm a big hip hop guy. And so I listen to a lot of hip hop. I'm not like I don't know. Like I'm still like an 80s baby, right? So like, not saying that I only listen to Nas and Jay-Z and Tupac. It's like, that's not the case. Like I love Jack Harlow and everything, but like Little Nas X, like I'm a big fan, but it's like, like I'm not a fan of like Takeshi or like Blueface or like these guys that like these real young Gen Z guys like
you listen to the classics.
Yeah, or like more of like
too.
a classical music. Like, you know what? It's more of a like I'm more of like a full sound person. So like, like there's got to be production elements that go in it. But like for whatever reason, like these Gen Z kids, like when they listen to hip hop, they just love this like weird stripped down sound. Guys who can't
like
really
keyboard
like
sound, yeah,
or like guys that just aren't like like good lyricists even. Like I don't know, like it's just kind of sort of weird. But I don't know, like so like that's the hip hop that I'm not into. I'm again, I'm not like the classical hip hop guy. Like I'm not sitting here trying to tell you like I just pop on like KRS-One and like and like zone out. Like that's not me. I like listening to new stuff, but the new stuff has to have a little bit more of a fuller sound, and a little bit more effort went into the damn track,
Yeah, you like the production. I respect that.
Yeah. So that's the kind of music that I listen to, and then can I also say too, like I randomly love like TV and movie music. So like sometimes, like if I'm just trying to like get into like a good, peaceful state in terms of like writing, and like um I'm trying to like listen to like Great British Bake Off soundtrack,
Wow.
and like I'll just let that play.
Hmm.
And I don't know what it is. I just love that. Like I love listening to that. Like the new Loki soundtrack that came off the TV show. I'm like, yo, this is a mood. Like I just love
Wow,
whatever
cool.
they were doing with Loki. Yeah. So like sometimes just like random movie and TV show music, like theme music, like that's what I'm kind of just sort of like vibe to for a bit. Just
You're
to kind of
getting
sort
into
of
film. You're getting into film.
but yeah, just kind of like, getting into that mind state, and like,
Yeah,
and just kind of like being able to really focus.
Hmm.
Yeah.
very cool.
I got you. Yeah, I
I'm
think
trying it.
I want to go back to the crowd thing. I said I was in Milwaukee. That was really crazy for a change after
Yeah.
have to see. I remember 100,000 people just in Deer District, like not even anywhere near the arena. If you left the area, they wouldn't let you back in, and there were still tens of thousands of people standing outside of Deer District even. So that was
Yeah.
definitely a crazy place for sure. I
Don't you
wanna
feel
know,
like, okay, so wait, hold on. Don't you feel like there were a lot of people, not because there were Milwaukee Bucks fans, because like, dude, real talk, come on, there's not that many Milwaukee Bucks fans. That's ridiculous. Like, come on. Even during this run, like, it's not like they were selling out their arena, dude, So
That's what I'm
like,
hearing.
I don't like, I don't want to hear about like, oh, all these guys were hardcore Milwaukee Bucks fans. Not hating. I'm not hating. I'm just saying, I think when you look at those crowds, they were there for the crowds,
True.
right? Like they wanted to be like they wanted to partake in
Yeah.
that energy, And again, I'm not hating. I'm just saying like I would do this exact same damn thing. I'm just saying like that's why they were there, not for the Bucks, but because again, it goes back to our previous conversation of like they want to be there for that energy. They want to feel that. They want to know what that's like, and I'm totally cool with that.
who's your team? Like growing up?
I don't have a team. Yeah.
Who's
Well, I don't have a team now, I should say. I'm a jaded, pro sports fan.
Right.
I lived in Houston until I was 10.
Oh.
I love the Oilers.
Oh, wow.
I love the Astros and I love the Rockets. Oh my God. I loved the Rockets. My God. Hakeem Olajuwon, my favorite player. I don't have any paraphernalia whatsoever. None.
Oh.
Zero. The only thing I have, I've got one. I've got a signed Hakeem Olajuwon basketball. That's it. I don't have jerseys. I don't like pay for any of that stuff. The only thing I've ever paid for in my life was a signed Hakeem Olajuwon ball. And yeah, like I loved the Rockets
Wow.
so hard. But then it was like it was like franchise miscue after miscue after miscue after miscue. And it's like after some point, like I'm not even living in Houston now. I'm like, okay, what do I even care about this team for? It's like, what the hell do I care? So I stopped. I think the trade that broke my back, I remember it very clearly.
Was it the James Harden trade? No, I'm just joking.
No. Before that, it was before that. They traded the 5th overall pick. They could have got Rudy Gay, and at the time, people forget Rudy Gay actually was projected to go 1 or 2.
Mhm.
And he had fallen for whatever reason. I don't know why, but he had fallen to 5.
Wow.
And Houston could have taken Rudy Gay right there. It would have been Rudy Gay, Tracy McGrady, and Yao Ming, I think, right?
Yeah.
And that team would have been baller.
Mhm.
And I was so ecstatic. I was like, oh man, this is great. This is awesome. Like we're going to have 2 great wings. And we're going to run the West, man. This is going to be sick. But no, they traded the 5th overall pick to get freaking Shane Battier and Stromile Swift. And that just broke me.
Oh man.
That broke me. And I was like, yep, nope. I remember I was at a job. I'm like, I was watching the draft and it just broke me, man. Like I just threw whatever papers I had in my hand. I threw them out. And like ever since that moment, I was like, yeah, I don't even care. Like I was like, not that I hate the Rockets, but I'm just like, I don't even care. Like that's it. Forget it. And of course it didn't work out. obviously Tracy McGrady started getting hurt, and I'm like, okay, Tracy McGrady could have like gotten hurt, but it's all good because you still would have had an athletic wing and Rudy Gay. Nope, we have Shane Battier and Stromile Swift, who, by the way, then I think we cut Stromile Swift or we traded him. No, I think we cut him, and then Memphis just signed him back anyways. Oh. And then ultimately, I think we traded Shane Battier back to Memphis too. And so, like, obviously this was like way down the road, but like, 5, 6, 7 years later, like it was like 7 years later. And it's like, instead of a decade of Rudy Gay, we have nothing. And I was like, yeah, this was probably one of the worst trades in NBA history, honestly. But yeah, that's, so I used to love the Rockets and the Oilers. And then obviously the Oilers moved and they became the Tennessee Titans. And then at that point I didn't care, So, so when people ask me what my favorite team is, my answer is always the same. It is my fantasy football team. That's my team. That's my team. And then I went to Cal. So I love the Cal Bears, but again, they've been pretty bad for a while now. So it's a little hard to get on that trip, man. But I don't know. But yeah, if they were ever to play in like the Rose Bowl or like a national championship game, oh, best believe like I'm not going to work. Like it's all good. Yeah. Like, I'm gonna have to tell my bosses, like, I'm sorry, bro. Like, you got to understand. Like,
you're covering the game.
This has got to happen. No, I'm not even covering the game. I'm not. If I have to cover the game, that means I can't like drink and celebrate. Like,
you gotta party. You're going to party.
I'm going there. I'm going there. I'm partying. Like, and that's it. Like, no, great. I'm not. I don't want to cover the game. Like, if Cal were to make a national championship, I'm not covering that game. Like, no, I'm going there to party. Like, that's where I'm going. Like,
good for you.
Yeah, man. Like, I've covered a Super Bowl, and let me tell you, it's a lot of work, dude. Wow. You don't get to go out ever. Like, you have to. It's just so much work. And I respect that. And again, especially when you're in work mode too, it's like again, I never want to do a bad job. Yeah. So it's like I'm never gonna be able to like relax and like party or whatever. Like, it just wouldn't happen. So, but if Cal got to like even like the Rose Bowl, like if Cal got to the Rose Bowl, we haven't been in a Rose Bowl in like 60 years. Like, no, I'm going. We're having a good ass time. Like it's going down. Like that's what's happening.
Yeah. So, James, I can't believe you're an Astros fan. I'm a Yankee fan. So.
Dude, I used to be an Astros fan too, but like after a while it just got to be so old. They were so bad for so long, and all those playoff chokes that they had, like that probably broke me too. And that didn't happen till later. That was like in like the early 2000s. Yeah, that just broke me, man. Like it was tough to see them just choke in the playoffs over and over and over and over and over again. So then I was just like, it's cool. I don't even live there. Why do I care?
If it makes you feel any better, I live in Detroit, and the Detroit area.
Yeah, there you go. That's tough.
For me as a Yankee fan, I will never forget 2017 with the trash cans and all the cheating that they actually did. I will never forget that part. But the last few things here before we let you go, our team is part of this foundation. It's called the Hugh Jackson Foundation. He's a former NFL coach, but now he's the offensive coordinator at Tennessee State with Eddie George, and we're trying to help him prevent human trafficking, making sure the community stays safe and the kids stay safe. So I'll send it to you and your wife so you guys can go check it out.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah, and the last thing here, would you like to say anything to all the nurses, doctors, and essential workers right now?
Yeah, man, you guys are the heroes, no doubt. Keeping everybody safe and dealing with everyone's bullshit. Like, come on, man. Like, that is amazing what you guys are doing, and definitely putting in the yeoman's work in terms of trying to keep community safe, man. No doubt. Nothing but respect.
Well said. And there it is. That wraps up episode 868 with the great James Coe, who used to work with UFC back in the day. Now he's a sports journalist, broadcaster. He used to work with NFL Network, Yahoo Fantasy. Now you can find him on DirecTV. He's a 4-time Emmy Award winner. He does everything. Man, this has been an honor, a fun conversation. Thank you for joining us today. It was truly an honor. We would like to have you back as a returning guest so you can meet the full team eventually. But keep up the great work, man. Have fun with your fantasy team. Good luck, and let's go. Let's get the season started.
Thanks, man. It was a lot of fun talking with you guys.
Well, thank you.
Appreciate you, James. Thank you.